So cool. There's an artist, an XR artist that is collaborating with Deadmau5 on their very first crypto art drop on Super Rare. I'm gonna have the chance right now to interview that artist, and we're gonna talk about this space. It's gonna be kind of about the XR technologies and how they relate to cryptocurrency. XR stands for extended reality, and XR stands for extended reality, and that covers a bunch of stuff. That covers augmented reality, virtual reality. It also covers mixed reality. And so you might hear these terms a lot in our conversation today, but know that XR is kind of all of them. When you're interested in augmented reality, and you're interested in virtual reality, and you're interested in mixed reality, these are all terms that you should Google. You should Google all of these after the talk or during the talk. Just as a quick housekeeping notes, you might want to take some notes because we are going to cover a lot of topics in a very short period of time. And it could be overwhelming if you're trying to take notes after the fact. So if you have the means to take notes either digitally or physically, that would be awesome. Let me just put on a face filter to just hype the attention. So yeah, we're going to be talking about this kind of stuff, extended realities, adding a digital layer onto our physical world, like this, like what is the technology? Who are the people behind these technologies that we use? And where is this future going? What happens when we mix XR technology like this with the music industry? So we're literally going to be interviewing an artist named Stuart Campbell, goes by Sutu, and it's going to be so amazing. They've been commissioned by the likes of Marvel and Google. I'm reading their documentary right here. Disney has hired this artist as well to do a lot of VR collaborations. They've worked on Doctor Strange and on the movie Ready Player One. And gosh, this is just it's an exciting time. So in any moment, we're going to have Sutu jump on the stream, and we're going to be talking about XR technologies like this. But when you mix XR with, music, what if you make a beautiful song and you combine it with virtual artwork, and then you distribute that straight onto the blockchain, using blockchain technology to authorize it and creating a rare version of a song / artwork. And it's going to be super exciting. We'll be covering a lot of topics. Things to consider is this. You're here because you're interested in the future. So we have to support each other, right? There's going to be a lot of questions, and there's going to be players in the space that might try to harm you. We have to protect and help each other. We need to be defending other digital creators, so that's kind of what we're going to be doing today. Extended realities and technologies like these, when we merge these, it's called audio reactive art. Thank you so much. Universe.art, everybody is here in the space. We're going to be talking about audio reactive art on the blockchain. And all that might sound like a bunch of new words and concepts. So I'm hoping that when we have Stuart jump on here in a moment, we're going to dive into what does that mean. And what's exciting is that Deadmau5 and Sutu collaborated together to make an audio reactive artwork that's going to be on Super Rare. Super Rare is one of many of the leading crypto art marketplaces where people are kind of putting those technologies and artwork together. But this is a really exciting piece because we're going to be combining audio and visuals. So on Super Rare right now, there's a lot of digital artwork. You'll see 3D animations, looping GIFs, really cool artwork. Oh, it's not Stuart? Oh, sorry. His name is Sutu. Oh, my apologies. Thank you, Universe.art. The artist's name is Sutu, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'll also ask Sutu when they're on here how to pronounce their name. Also, we need to be aware of pronouns. I don't know Sutu very well, so I'm going to ask Sutu what their pronouns are, and we'll stick with that during the stream. This is the future. This is the future we're talking about, okay? It's going to be cool. So we'll just wait for Sutu to jump on. Oh, look at that. How interesting. When you sip from the cup, it covers enough of the face that it confuses the algorithm. Wait, it worked right there. What was different? Interesting. I guess for this particular XR technology, if the mouth is covered, it no longer knows how to detect the face. That's fun. His name is Sutu. Oh, got it. And the pronoun, thank you, Universe.art, for explaining the name pronunciation of the person that we're going to be bringing on. Their name is Sutu, and their pronouns are he, him. Perfect. So this will be great. You want to know these things. Oh, Sutu has arrived. Let me invite you in here. Go live with sutu.eats.flies. Yes. We're going to bring Sutu on, and let's get started. Let me just disable my filter for a second. Oh, it won't let me disable it. That's awkward. Okay. Hey,
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing fine. Let me just disable my filter for a second. There we go. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, thanks
So,
for having me on, man.
so tell me a little bit. Well, a couple questions. Uh, are you in a good space right now to chat about some things about this technology stuff?
I'm in my apartment. It's a lazy afternoon. It's fine. All is good. You just froze a little bit, but you're back now.
Okay, cool. All right. So, welcome. And you know, I guess for those that are just joining here, in the space, I do have your website up on my screen. So is it okay if I read your about section out loud?
Yeah, I think it's probably out of date, but
Oh,
let's just have a
it,
go at it. Yeah, let me know what it says.
okay. So here's what I have on your about page, but anything that's inaccurate, just let me know and we'll fill in the blanks here. So according to sutu.eats.flies.com, aka Campbell, Sutu uses art and technology in new ways to tell stories. He has been commissioned by the likes of Marvel, Google, and Disney to create VR art for properties such as, check this out, everybody, Doctor Strange and Ready Player one of my favorite books. Inside of, and then yeah, that's kind of what I have. So here, and then and why we're going to be talking today is I think what you've done, from my understanding, is something related to audio reactive art. And I'm wondering, could you introduce yourself and just tell people, a little bit about you?
Okay. Yeah, so for over the last decade, I've been working in all the different forms of digital art, like you so eloquently described earlier on. In XR, but even before XR, doing like iPad and iPad apps and web comics and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I come from like a storytelling background, and that's one of the reasons I've kind of got into the sort of the entertainment kind of industry, I guess. But still always been putting out my own art and projects. Um, yeah, like uh, this recent collaboration with Deadmau5 probably came off the back of well, it was organized by a company called Emanate, that is like a company that bring artists and musicians together to create these kind of unique partnerships. And this
Mm-hmm.
is their first time also entering into that sort of NFT space, which we can go into more detail a bit later, I
Oh
guess.
yeah.
Yeah, and then, but those guys have been following my work for a while. Like this year, well, a couple of years back, I was working for The Wave, doing The Wave is a company based in LA and Austin, and they do virtual concerts.
Virtual
So
concerts.
yeah, so it began as like a VR company where you'd actually put the headset on and you would be inside the virtual concert space, and you would see your other friends as little avatars, and there'd be sort of a
Mm-hmm.
live performer in there, and all the visuals would be audio reactive, and
Sure.
the performer is controlling virtual decks and triggering virtual visuals and stuff, being both a
Mm-hmm.
DJ and a VJ. One of the big ones that I directed for The Wave was for Jean-Michel Jarre, who's icon in the music world. He holds the record for the biggest outdoor concert ever. And
What
now
is the biggest outdoor concert ever? What does that mean?
that was, I think it was like 1 million people or something like that. And it was in China. He's a European
Mm-hmm.
artist, but he's
Okay.
also like the godfather of electronic music. And I've been a big
Ah.
fan of his work for a long time. If you look up Jean-Michel Jarre, you'll see he has every accolade under the sun kind of in his portfolio, but
Beautiful.
very influential person. So it was a great privilege. And what was really
Wow.
great, exciting for me and for the audiences that came along to that is Jean-Michel Jarre was in the crowd, and then afterwards we had a Q&A with him. So it was like pretty
Mm-hmm.
wild. Like, and he
Wow.
was, yeah, really, just a really experienced act, just and really like optimistic and really supportive. There was a lot of younger artists and fans there, and he was really
Mm-hmm.
interested to hear everybody's ideas and thoughts. So it was quite an incredible moment. But incredible that
Wow.
it was also, you know, you have to imagine our little funny avatars bobbing around the
Mm-hmm.
Jean-Michel avatar having this kind of
And
conversation.
so this conversation's happening in VR after the concert, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
So you just had this amazing concert. There's a million people turn out in VR, correct?
Oh no, the biggest concert he ever did in real life, there was like a million people there.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. In this case, like there probably isn't the capacity to have like a million avatars in one space at a time. So what happens is
Sure.
you might manage up to like 100, and then you have to create an instance of the concert, and then
Mm-hmm.
you just keep instantiating the concert until
Like the Fortnite model. So Fortnite has one giant world, but there can be millions of people playing at once because they instance, each one of those are 100-person maps, right? So
yeah,
similar to
exactly.
Fortnite, this is what they're doing with the concert space, right? With the
Yeah,
digital virtual
totally.
concert.
Yeah.
Sick.
And now like the wave has kind of pivoted a bit from creating virtual concerts to also they're doing the two sort of formats simultaneously, but now they're like broadcasting to YouTube and Twitter Live
TikTok.
and TikTok, obviously. So
Yeah.
earlier on this year, we did the weekend. First, TikTok's first virtual concert was with the weekend, and I created a lot of visuals for that. And
So I attended your concert then. I was one of the people who attended the weekend concert, seeing it all play in real time. And what
mm,
was so exciting about that was the fact that this was all taking place in TikTok, which had this gigantic reach, and the amount of engagement that I saw in the stream. So like I was curious in that there's a moment where people were asked if they could if you wanted the weekend to lick a virtual frog, and
mm.
it prompted a question on the screen to say yes or no, and people voted. How much of that was actually going to influence what was going to happen visually? Like, did the user input in the comments on TikTok, did that
Mm.
actually influence the outcome of what was going to happen in the virtual concert?
Yeah, it did. And that's like kind of one of the biggest motivators for like that format of concert right now is, um, yeah, it's kind of like it's somewhere in between what the Fortnite is, where you're actually like a character running around in a space and
Yeah.
interacting.
Mm-hmm.
And and then the other end of the spectrum is just like, a viewer at home watching a
Yeah.
pancake screen, and kind of like Bandersnatch, where you have minimal interactivity. So it's trying to find like a sweet spot in that, and that anyone can just tune in on their phone and watch along on this concert and be able to interact a little bit. So
Yeah.
we've been really kind of pushing that. Our next concert, which I can't announce officially yet, but the announcement I think is
Understood.
coming out next week.
That'll be
So
exciting. Looking
yeah,
forward to it.
it's going to be a good one, and it'll be one where we sort of take all of those kind of user interactions to another level. So like with the
Wonderful.
weekend, we were like letting the users create fireworks and things like this as well by
Mm-hmm.
typing little emojis into the text into the chat.
Yeah.
So now we've like I like just basically the whole team has been creating a bunch of different kind of aesthetics that we can allow the user to introduce and procedurally generate the environment just from user
Oh,
interactions.
beautiful.
So
That will
that's
be
like,
amazing.
yeah, it's definitely like it's been a really challenging month, like as we try to pull all of
Mm-hmm.
this together and beta test it and let the user know that that is their contribution. Because like if you're adding
Right.
like something to space, like one of a million objects in that space or whatever, how do
Sure.
you know it's yours? So
Yeah. How is it yours? Right. How do
yeah,
you own
so
that part of control? How does your contribution as a viewer, how do you see a representation of that?
yeah, and in the John Legend show that we did earlier on this year, we had people were able to. That was a fundraiser, and we raised quite a lot of money for John's own charity.
Was it about
And
$100,000, correct?
I
Something
think it
around
was a
there?
bit more than that. And it was around. I think it was like 100 to 150, and
Mm-hmm.
people's donations were appearing as like little love hearts that would go towards the stage, and they'd have their name just above
Wow.
it. And then
Oh my goodness.
some of those big donors appeared on stage next to him as little avatars with their name above their head, sort of dancing
Really?
beside him and stuff. So yeah, there was some baller donations going on that day. It was like some people giving like $1,000 and stuff, and Everyone
So
was kind of
what's
watching on, just going, "Oh my God, I can't believe this is happening." It's like pretty wild.
Yeah, I mean, when you share that, I mean, that makes the XR future very exciting for me personally, and I think for a lot of viewers here, where like you're interacting with like a virtual, pseudo virtual human version. So just to get this right, I think John Legend was in a motion capture suit at a
Mm.
studio, and
Hmm.
the live movements of John Legend in a mocap suit was being projected onto a virtual avatar in front of
Hmm.
a virtual piano, and the audience, the viewers that tuned into the wave were seeing both, right? They saw both the
Yeah,
VR or the yeah.
we had the main virtual show was taking up most of the space, and then we had like a little camera that was in the studio showing John in his motion capture suit that was just down in the corner. And I
Mhm.
think, like I was watching, especially on YouTube, like so many of his fans were just so blown away, and they were just like, because you would see his little virtual avatar waving, and then he'd be there in the real space waving at the same time, and there was like zero latency, like it was really good, really
Wow.
fast, and we
I
had the
was
piano mapped into the virtual space too. So one of the tracks we played the
really
piano, and it was kind of like an interesting partnership as well because they got some sponsorship from Yamaha that made the piano, and then they sent us a model of
okay.
their piano, so we used like a
Beautiful.
legit model of their piano in the show as well.
In the
So
mocap suit, did it track any of his fingers and hand positions?
yeah,
And
we had gloves as well, so we had pretty good tracking.
if
Um,
the physical glove, if it pressed one of the virtual keys, was that what was creating the sound, or is it kind of like ad lib, like you're kind of pretending to play and it's playing the correct track?
no, it didn't. It wasn't as like mapped to that extent. Like
Okay, just sorry, I
that,
was just
that would be
checking.
cool. Yeah, I know. I think this is like these are the notes. These are the things that we want to do. Like to keep taking it from. It's funny, like so some of the original creators of the Wave, like the founders of the Wave, their
Hmm.
background is Guitar Hero. Like the previous
You're
company that
kidding.
they were at was Guitar Hero, and so they helped grow that company. So I wouldn't
Wow.
be surprised if down the track,
Sure.
having a whole arsenal of like physical instruments that are mapped to virtual instruments,
Oh
like
yeah, that's
precisely,
coming.
like yeah, it's totally coming, man.
I'll
And
be
I
patient
think,
though, and I know you're probably pretty patient because like a lot of this, from what I've heard, I listened to a few of your interviews before this talk to kind of get a space of, understand where you're coming from. And one thing I heard that you once developed a huge amount of work on Adobe Flash. I think it was a comic book series, correct? And I
mm,
wanted to maybe see if you had any comments about technology that you're publishing to that changes. What happens to your digital artwork when you had it on a tool that's, I guess, expiring?
yeah, it's a good question. It's come up so many times in these different sort of conversations. It's a
Hmm.
question about legacy and about sort of digital heritage. Um,
Yes.
yeah, so it will continue to come up. It's like, it's kind of like Flash in particular has had like 2 decades of content. Some really award-winning documentaries and stuff have been created in that format. It sort of defined an era of the web. Um,
Hmm.
and so now there
Yeah, so
are,
much so.
yeah, so much so. And now there are efforts to try to create, like I saw recently, or someone, when I announced the other day on Twitter, like, oh, Flash is coming to an end, which means my comic will be coming to an end. It's actually,
Hmm.
they stopped developing Flash like 5 years ago. They just left it there, sort of thing. So,
Right.
yeah, for that reason, my comic actually still works right up until now, which is like,
Oh, right.
I didn't actually have to do any updates. Usually I'd have to update it with all the browser updates and the security updates that happen, and just some shit just would break. But for some
Hmm.
reason, because they stopped developing it, it just kind of kept it in a stasis sort of state. And
Yeah,
it was kind of interesting. Like I thought it would have died like 5 years ago, to be honest.
sure.
My iPad version of that same comic series, that just died after 3 years because Apple is so hardcore about not making anything backwards compatible. And it's
Yeah,
like, it's
very
still
deliberate,
worth, yeah,
very
it's,
intentional, very much like you need more physical products if you want to have a future. Throw away
yeah,
all your virtual stuff that you spent money on because we need you as a business model. We need you to have a new item. And it's so
yeah.
intentional. Hmm.
And it's really the most horrible thing about that whole platform and ecosystem, that that sort of capitalist model that doesn't really care about like the amount of hours and sweat and tears that we put into our work, and
Yeah.
to think that we might actually have money just to hand over to them just to make it work on their platform. It's like, come on, give us a break. Why don't you just put in a bit of your billions of dollars for a change to make it? And it's like, they always say the main reason is security, like, but why can't these things exist in a bubble?
Well, that's what
You
we're
know,
doing now, right? I mean, I see you getting in the crypto
mm,
art space, and all of a sudden, I'm feeling like if enough artists right now start seeing that they can have value of their artwork, people can recognize them as an artist, they can make a living without the main platforms to control all that stuff. I feel like that might actually push some hopefully positive innovation on the social media end. Maybe not immediately, but if enough big players come in, then I feel like there might be this like a lure that they're like, oh no, they're not going to just make free awesome content on our platforms anymore.
well, I suppose the point that I was getting to is like the Internet Archive, which is
Hmm.
famous for having a backlog of even the old GeoCities websites from the 90s and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, they have created like an emulator for Flash content. So I will probably
Oh wow, I didn't know
take some
that.
time out on the holidays just to have a look and see if I can upload my whole Knowles comic up to that, just to see. I don't
Wow.
really have time to put
Yeah.
a lot of effort into making it work, but if it's a matter of just dumping it on their server or
Yes.
something, that would be beautiful. But it's like, this isn't the first time this has happened. We've had emulators of old 80s video games and like the little console games and stuff. So there is
Hmm.
generally an interest with every generation. There's an interest to sort of preserve that legacy. And I know MIT has a project where they've kind of got like this isolated machine that is simulating a bunch of the most sort of groundbreaking sort of products of each generation. So like they have
Hmm.
Doom on there, for example, like the original Doom first person shooter game and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Just things
Yes.
that were kind of like watershed moments that kind of
Hmm.
paved the way. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, and I think they had like the first word processor on there, which is like the Apple one.
Oh
So
wow.
it's
Yeah,
like
like
a
the tiny
mix.
little window and it's got like mostly grayscale values on there. Is that the right
Yeah,
visual
yeah,
of it?
yeah, yeah. And a kind of
Amazing.
a cute little interface that has come back in popularity with that whole
Is it
vaporwave
vaporwave?
kind of. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Big fan of
That sort of stuff. So it's funny
it's
how
funny how
these
they
things
let me
come around
switch
full
my mic.
circle.
And can you hear me
Yeah.
okay right now?
Yep.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
hilarious that like Vaporwave has brought back a lot of like the Windows 98, user interface. Like I saw someone create like an emulator of Instagram as a
Mm.
Windows 98 edition. It was just like it was so beautiful.
Yeah, I think there's some. It's kind of an interesting to think about, like that initial spark of design still has relevance. Like when that was like
Hmm.
the era, the designers of that time who were inspired tapped into an aesthetic that we can still find relevant today. And I think that's where we kind of start to critique the value of these art and movements as we look back
Sure.
across time. And as we sort of move into the conversation about the value of digital art in the crypto art scene and what makes something worthwhile,
Hmm.
it's always going to be a critical question. What makes artwork worthwhile, and what gives it its resonance, where the whole populace kind of says that's a beautiful piece of art and that deserves to be
This thing.
remembered and that sort of thing.
Yes.
Because it's
Hmm.
always a combination of composition and aesthetic and the message that it's trying to
The timing, when it comes
communicate.
out,
And yeah, the
like One
timing, of
Piece is
course.
not art today, but 100 years from now, like now it's art. Now we value it as art,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just so dynamic. Would you have a do you have a definition of art or a working definition of art that you like to use?
Um, not off the top of my head, but I suppose,
Sure.
I mean, usually it's like a commentary on the time and probably a gesture towards where we're sort of headed. I think that's the role of the
Mm,
artist, to sort of look at our time and communicate that. Um,
wow, I love
yeah,
that. Thank you for that. That's a really cool. So, like you said, it's like the role of the artist looking at where they are in the time today, and their art can be a representation of where they might be, where we all might be in the future.
yeah. I think I'm probably biased to that kind of perception of my role as an artist because I am sort of future forward thinking.
Hmm.
And like obviously, trying to and actively innovating in art and technology.
Yes.
I'm sure other artists have played a different role, but I think the general
Sure.
consensus is that our art is somehow commenting on our time.
Speaking of which, talking about the role of art today and where it can go in the far future or tomorrow, have you read the book Ready Player One before you worked on the movie?
Yep. That
And
was key to me to read it before working on it.
yeah, so when you read the distracted globe part, did your vision of what that looked like in the movie, did that come right away, or is that something that you developed over time after reading it and thinking about it?
Well, actually, because we did the VR version of the distracted globe, before the film came out, we got to go over to the movie lots and check out a little sneak preview of what they had already rendered as the distracted globe. We knew that it was just going to be filled up with pop culture kind of references. And yeah, basically my role, well, there was a couple of artists that were on the case, and they gave us IP access to certain things. And they mentioned that we had access to all the Konami video game titles and stuff from the 80s. Wow. And I was just put my hand up straight away. I was like, I've got this. I'm just going to claim this and I'm going to just do this.
Yeah.
So I ended up drawing a big Tower of Babel style sort of homage to all of these game titles and the arcade game art and stuff like that. And that became the world that you kind of sort of navigate through in VR, because you could fly around in VR and you could literally go through these holograms of all this cool artwork. So I was having an absolute ball, and it was funny because I was doing all that in VR at the Wave Studio, and I was just kind of in there for a solid 2 weeks, just nonstop, dancing around as everyone else is sitting at their computers. But it felt like at that time, Wave was still trying to raise money. So as they're bringing investors in, it was kind of a novel thing to say, oh yeah, they're working on Ready Player One, and there's one of our VR artists working in VR, creating the content for it. Yeah. And they were really kind of pointing that out. And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of a novel thing now, but this is such a better and practical way to actually create art than, prawn style golden ratio, being hunched over like this. Yeah. So bad.
All our neck problems and our shoulder problems and our wrists are being destroyed. Whereas you're sitting in you're moving, you're twisting your body around to. Were you using mostly Gravity Sketch or Oculus Medium, or were you using Unreal Engine with an emulator? What was kind of your approach?
For that one, it was Tilt Brush, because we were using the Poly library to pull the artwork into Unity. Perfect. So it was it was super helpful. It was a really simple pipeline. What you see is what you get. All the artwork was showing up, all the shaders and stuff were working. And then once it was in Unity, then we could fuck with the shaders and do some more interesting stuff with them. So I think that was...
on a technical question, working in Tilt Brush, I struggled to get the shaders to be as to be as visually reactive as what I'm getting in Tilt Brush. Did you see that as an issue when you were designing in Tilt Brush, building a world out, and then when you brought it into Unity, was there a lot of having to retranslate it?
Yeah, and the problem also was that when they released the second toolkit to bring that artwork in, they just left out the audio reactive prefab. And so I ended up working with a buddy, and we made our own hack version, which was based on the original one and the Poly one, which included that audio reactivity prefab. Nice. And then we built on top of it our own sort of parameters. So and that also was the artist and programmer Keijiro. He works for Unity, and he's famous for just every week putting out on his GitHub all these incredible Unity tools, and he includes on there a library of audio reactive ones. Yeah, I think for any programmer that might be listening, everyone knows Keijiro because of his just kind of commitment and contribution to the tools that we all use. like everyone at the Wave is just like Keijiro is kind of a god in terms of that sort
For
of, especially the audio reactive kind of
for
space.
for those that are listening and they don't know this name, how would you find out more about? Is it KGO? Is that how you pronounce or spell their
Yeah,
name?
it's well, it's spelled Keijiro. And let me just check what his Twitter is because he's very active
Awesome.
on Twitter.
While you're doing that, I'm going to see if there's any questions in the comments. So for those of you that are just joining, welcome. We have Sutu here, and we're talking about audio reactive art and crypto art and how we kind of mix things together. We have a lot of XR background, a lot of technology talk. If you have questions, this is definitely a safe place to ask. And and also if you have an answer to a question that you see in the feed, please answer it if you know it. And if you don't, that's cool too. We're all learning together. All right, back to you. What's
Yeah,
the
it's
Twitter handle?
yeah, the Twitter handle's just underscore KZR.
Oh wow, they got an
Yeah,
early Twitter name like that.
on the cusp, on the cusp. But yeah, if you scroll
Amazing.
through his stuff, you'll see like yeah, last time I was in Japan, there was actually I just missed it by a couple of days, but there's like a they have this really futuristic sort of performance stage. It's kind of like the Pepper's Ghost, the Pepper's
Okay, I'm
Ghost.
actually not familiar with Pepper's Ghost yet.
Pepper's Ghost is a concept of like basically like projecting onto a fabric that's in
Oh,
front of like a live performance to make it
got it.
look like you're sort of seeing a hologram there in the space.
Amazing.
So they've got a
Beautiful.
really sophisticated one in Yokohama. And Keijiro did this incredible show, mixed reality show, where they're tracking live performance as they're walking around and dancing on the stage, but then in real time
Wow.
mapping to them the same way that you were mapping the head to your face and stuff before with the Instagram lens. But
That's
yeah, in real
one.
time, yes, exactly. So in real time, tracking the body, mapping live interactive visuals to the performers, but
Right.
all of those visuals being audio reactive, which was real time as
Oh
well.
my God. So that would be
And
like
it
if I was
was
yelling right now, this thing would be like bouncing around and stuff.
And
Got it.
also the inertia of your body affecting, like, if you swing your arm like this, but the visuals might go out like a couple more meters or something like that.
Oh,
So
so was it
taking
using
taking
Touch
those
Designer?
physics.
Was that using
Well, no,
Touch
that
Designer?
he's all using Unity. Like he's an absolute
Okay.
guru of Unity. But it's
Wow.
that kind of. I mean, that guy's like a good person to watch just because he's like so on the cutting edge and literally influencing everyone that's creating in Unity and everyone that's watching in that space in general. Like, I think there's a lot of
Hmm.
nods to his work, so it's
So
good to know.
cool. So just to
Mm.
pivot a little bit, you have this really advanced background in these technologies, but it's my understanding that what you're going to be releasing, I think, on the 15th is your very first crypto art drop, correct? That's the first NFT?
Yeah, it will be my first one. It will be
Wow.
the first one for Deadmau5 as well.
Wow. So I just want to ask, like, what convinced you? Because like it took a lot of
Oh,
convincing for me initially, and then all of a sudden a switch happened. I'm wondering what happened for you when you're like, okay, I'm gonna make an NFT and try this thing out.
yeah. I mean, the only thing, like, I have a lot of friends that have been in the space for a while, and I'd been talking to them about it. And I was like, yeah, I'll get around to it. I'll get around to it. But been super duper busy this year. But
Right.
so yeah, I think like when it became like an actual job that I had to do, like a freelance gig, and the company, like the guys at Emanate contacted me to create this work, um, then I was like, oh, that's great. Push comes to shove kind of moment. I was like, yeah, I'll do that.
You're just like,
I'll carve out the time to do that. Yeah.
wow,
So
okay.
that's where the conversation started, and yeah, like I've literally been paying a lot more attention to it, but only in the last kind of month and going, oh, okay, oh, wow, look what's going on here. This is crazy. Oh, actually, this is
Hmm.
a really incredible moment, for digital artists. So
Yeah, it is.
I've cottoned onto it a bit more now and sort of paying a lot more attention. Mm.
Amazing. What's it like? I actually don't know too many examples other than Coldy and Ferocious of collaborating on a single piece of digital crypto art. So one question I just have of just like it's like a logistics question. How does that even work? So like let's say it sells, let's go simple. Let's say it sells for $100 worth of Ethereum. Is that
Yeah.
something that you split down the middle? You say half for Sutu, half for Deadmau5?
Yeah, I think that's a good place to start. And I mean, like that kind of transaction we've been doing, and those kind of agreements we've been doing since the dawn of man. Um,
Right.
Obviously, it comes up to like however you decide to negotiate. But for this one, it's a 50-50 split.
Okay.
And we also give a cut to Emanate, who coordinated the whole partnership as well. So
Wow.
that,
Okay.
for
Yeah.
all of us, we're just like all in and just like, we'll see what happens. We don't have much of an expectation, but we're excited that it's been picked up and there's like lots of conversation happening around it. So
While I do believe it's great to not have very like high expectations of anything, I can't help but share that I do believe that this piece that you're going to drop, I think it's going to sell for about $60,000. That's my current guess. I know it sounds nuts,
you
but
heard
with
it
this,
here first.
huh?
You heard it here first.
Is
So
it
we'll
hard to
we'll be
be
able to
aggressive?
come back. I said you heard it here first. So
Oh yeah,
if
cool.
we, yeah, we'll see. You might become like a crypto art prospector or something in the future, where people will be like asking you, what do you reckon? What do you reckon? How much is this going to go for? People will
Yeah,
be coming
that'll
to
be
you for
fun.
the advice. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I kind of just did the math in my head a little bit. I mean, I do have a metric for what I used to come up with that number. So I would be really curious if how far off I am with that. I would love to know if like my speculation is off. That would be great to know. And if it's spot on, that'd also be great to know. Either way. But
Mm.
but I know it's like just hearing you say like, oh, you don't have very high expectations. I think that's such a healthy like mindset to go into, but I'm excited for you guys.
Yeah, I think yeah, I mean it's important just to to keep the whole ego under wraps or whatever.
Totally.
Yeah, but I mean, I was watching like all the people craziness yesterday, and I was just like, this is like out of control. But at the same time, like I appreciated Mike's little talk on Instagram where he was sort of kind of comparing these moments to the early days of like Banksy and Cause and stuff like that. Like, who would have thought a graffiti artist would be able to become a mainstream artist? And now, obviously, Banksy
Right.
artworks are selling for $3 million, and like Cause vinyl collectibles. Initially, there was the thing that you could get for $50, but now these like super exclusive collector ones going for like $1 million and stuff.
Right,
So
millions, right? And it
yeah,
was
yeah.
so just to clarify, these were items that when they started were worth what?
Well, yeah, there was just like there wasn't a market for it. There wasn't
Right.
even a appreciation for it in the art
Okay.
world. It was completely shunned. So it was
Mm,
like the art world caught up, and now, like I can tell you, the last show of Cause at NGV, um, like that was one of their biggest public drawing crowds. The NGV is the National Gallery in Victoria in Australia.
thank you. I didn't know what that was. So wait,
Yeah, no, that's
what
right.
is the National Gallery in Victoria? So what does that mean?
Well,
Sorry.
yeah, it's just like it's one of the main art galleries in Australia,
Okay,
and
cool.
so they have really high profile artists and artworks there, and they've got an incredible collection, and they invest a ton of money into putting on these
Wow, it's so
shows.
exciting. Sorry.
So
That's
they had one of
exciting.
those, yeah, I mean they had one of those massive 5 meter high Cause sculptures out the front of the gallery and stuff like
Oh
that.
wow. Okay. Big like
But
just like these monolith almost like large structures
yeah, but
for
like
the art gallery.
people like Cause has got a huge following in Southeast Asia, and people were flying in from Singapore just to see the exhibition and stuff like that. They had like limited runs of prints and stuff, and just
Hmm.
those alone sold for millions of dollars. And yeah, my friend is like the technical director down there. Like he's in charge of a lot of like the technical side of the installations and stuff. And
Yeah.
he was like, he's seen like some of the greatest artists in the world have shown at NGV, but he was like, because of the pop culture appeal of like an artist like Cause, he was just like the crowds that were coming in was just bananas, like on another level. And so,
Wow.
this is kind of, it's just interesting. Like, for me personally, like, the, like, I don't feel like there's a lot of, I don't know, I'm not like to be very critical, but like this kind of
Sure.
reoccurring theme of just like kind of, Mickey crying into his hands or whatever. It's a
Hmm.
motif that gets recycled and used and used and used again and again and again.
What
Um,
does that mean? I'm not familiar with that motif. So this is like Mickey Mouse crying into like the glove hands.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's kind of like his most iconic sort of image that he's created.
Hmm.
It's the kind of I guess.
Oh, I know which one you're referring to. Sorry, it took me a second to connect it. The style of
yeah.
artwork is Mickey's style, but it's like a clown-like character, is it not?
Yeah.
And
Which
it's
is
like,
which is kind of his become his signature, I guess.
gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay, I
and you know, it
connected the
began as
dots.
kind
Yeah.
of like a you know, it began as like a commentary on sort of like the Disney kind of capitalism model, and sort of Mickey
Mm.
being kind of ashamed of himself. But
Sorry. I have some
yeah,
friends at
but
Disney. You heard whoops.
yeah, but the funny thing is, like now, like causes become so big, you know, everyone's exiting through the gift shop and buying in the same way that they do when they go leave Disneyland
What?
for the day.
Oh
So
my
it's this kind of
gosh.
funny juxtaposition that's happened.
Yeah.
Like, you know, he's created so much momentum that he's sort of become this kind of, as an individual, he's become like such a huge, not quite competing against Disney, but nevertheless, as an individual brand, it's pretty huge.
Yeah.
And then, you know, what you think about that is kind of up to you, I guess. I
Yeah.
think it's kind of funny and ironic.
One question that kind of makes me think of hearing that is I hear a lot of artists right now that are getting the crypto art are suffering from imposter syndrome. Um, is that something you ever experienced where you're like, this isn't what I think, my value? Like, is that something you experience?
Um, I mean, my, like I said before, we did sort of going into this without much expectation.
Oh, true. Very true. Good point.
Yeah, but like, yeah, I think it's always tricky sort of finding what your value is as an artist. And, you know, a lot of the times and over the years, I've been in circumstances where I'll create like artwork for a lot of my work has been commercial sort of stuff. And I had to do that because it's been really difficult to sell digital art.
Yeah.
Um, so, you know, and so a lot of us sort of that are in the digital art space rely on sort of like commercial partnerships and
Yeah,
things
we're
to be
like,
able to make a living.
please. Yeah, like
Yeah,
I can't eat tomorrow or next month. My rent's gonna run out if I don't sell my
yeah,
digital artwork.
yeah. And I remember early on, like, I one of my first jobs like was designing art for snowboards, and it went really well. And the company said, "Oh, we've grown 400% since you started designing our boards." And then I
Okay.
was just like, well,
Wow, that's
why the fuck are
exciting.
you paying me 10 grand a year or something? You know, it was just like,
Oh,
you know, it was just like
wow.
kind of one of those moments where it puts things into perspective. It's like, yeah, thanks, you're giving me a big cheers here, but like you haven't fucking given me any more money. Like, you know, you're paying me breadcrumbs. So it's
Wait,
interesting to have that, to
yeah.
gain that perspective, you know, like just to get some context. Like if you are starting to work with some of the big companies, knowing that they know they've approached you and they know that the value of your work and what you put into it and how much that can translate for them. So now
Right.
we've actually got to start to put those things into perspective when one of those big brands starts to broadcast out to every single country on the planet and stuff. Like it quantifies quite incredible amount. So
Can
it's
everybody in the
good to,
comments right now just do an applause emoji for what Sutu just said? This is because this is the fundamental shift I think artists need to start to make. A lot of digital artists, because a lot of it comes down to they're told they're not worth anything, and then and that belief is confirmed quarter after quarter when a system that they're paying into is making huge profits, but your livelihood and your ability to sustain happiness and pay for bills and have a family if that's something you choose is hindered, but their businesses are thriving from
mm,
your creativity, and they would be nothing without you, yet because of the power dynamic they can currently not value you. They don't have to pay you what you're worth, and that
mm,
leads to a almost like a society-wide thing for artists of all having imposter syndrome, because if all the companies paying all say you're not worth it, then when they go to ask other people, they're all like, oh wow, I'm not worth it either. Oh yeah, neither am I. Yeah, we're all not worth it. We're all garbage. All of our work is
yeah.
garbage.
I saw Sean comment there. It's like revenue sharing, and there are models for this already. Like one of my buddies, who's been in a lot of films as an actor, and you know the actors are part of our Actors Guild, which has helped to create these standards as well, like in Hollywood and stuff like that. And like
Right.
I've been with him. I remember being out of his apartment one time, and he goes to the mailbox and he pulls out a check, and he's
Okay.
like, "Oh shit." awesome. And I was like, what? He's like, oh, I just got a big royalty check because the film I was in like fucking 7 years ago has just started distributing through Southeast Asia. And it was just like, and it was
Oh,
like a film that he didn't
wow.
even like, and it was one that he did when he was quite young, like when he was
Hmm.
like a child actor and stuff. And but it was like a decent amount of money, and it was just totally out of the blue for him. And I was just like, oh, wouldn't that be a lovely day? You know, if you got a big kickback as an artist, like I never experienced anything like that. But the model is there too. You know, I kind of liked seeing, say, for
What?
example, like Mandalorian, and you see the
Okay.
concept art coming up at the end of at the end of every episode. It's
Okay.
like, you know,
Hmm.
it's kind of cool that they're making a nod to this artist as like the sort of the nucleus for these worlds that we've become so immersed in. It's like the first
Yes.
time we'd seen that, and it was like a really beautiful change for just replacing. You know, it's good to see, of course, like the white names on the black background, but also just so good to see
Sure.
this artwork represented at the end. And I wonder if
Right.
if there is a model where those guys are getting kickbacks and stuff. But
Maybe. I mean, we don't always get to
yeah,
see it because the nature of a lot of economic systems is one of zero transparency. You know,
yeah.
we have women that are doing the same work as men, but being paid less for the same amount of work. And it's like, if we had transparency on how money was working, we could like very clearly be like, wait, aren't they doing the same work? Oh yeah, they are. Oh, why are they being
Mm.
paid differently? Oh, because our company is sexist. This is how we work. It's like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's like,
I've also had
no.
I worked on a series for a few months doing all this concept art for a really big title, and
Hmm.
and then it just entered in production hell, and now it's been postponed, and then the writer of it's been moved over, and now another writer's coming on. And it's like all
Okay.
that work that I created, I don't know if it's going to see the light of day, but like it's all been embargoed because of the ingredients and stuff.
I don't fully understand that one. What do you mean? So like you worked a
Oh,
bunch on something?
so the point is that like I created all this art. I can't even show the world
Okay.
because because the series hasn't come out yet, and
Right.
we don't know when it's going to come out because now like they're having lots of
Oh,
arguments in the big company, and we'll just say the big company, and they've
sure.
changed writers. But yeah, it was
Yeah,
like it was. I can say because it was announced, like it was Sam Esmail
of
series,
course.
so it
Hmm.
was like big deal. But then for whatever reason, suddenly he's not on it anymore, and someone else
Wow.
is, and I was just like, fuck. It's like
Right.
I was looking forward to sharing all that art that I made because it looked cool, and it was like a property that I was like have always wanted to see become a TV series. So I was
Oh,
like,
it's so
ah,
frustrating. So
yeah,
you
yeah,
put your
yeah.
art, you put your heart into your art, and
Mm.
I'm guessing this is over how long did you work on this project? Not to get you frustrated,
Um,
but just to hear
yeah,
it.
yeah. It was over a couple of months. So in that time, I
God.
created a ton of work, and I was creating everything from like costume designs to like every aspect of world designs, and it was futuristic things. So there was like
Hmm.
lots and lots of pieces of that puzzle that I was involved in. Um,
And to think that
and I
with
was
all
the
that
first artist
work,
involved in it, so I got to get first dibs of like
oh
an
wow. Like you got
approach
the
to it.
shots that you wanted, the characters or whatever the kind of work was, you got dibs on like I want oh this I'd be passionate about this part and this would be cool to work on, right?
And I didn't have to be influenced by anyone. I could kind of dive in. Obviously, I was working with an art director, but it was only a really small
Hmm.
team at that initial stage. So
Sure.
yeah, it's I know a lot of artists that are like you haven't seen them active on Instagram or whatever for ages, and then suddenly the film comes out, and then they just go, and all this
Oh,
artwork that
all
they
their artwork.
created, yeah, it
Yeah.
just suddenly comes out, and you're like, damn. But it's like, what have you been doing? And it's like, God, I
Hmm.
wish I could tell anybody right now. But
Right.
yeah,
And
it's
because
so
imagine
funny.
if you did tell somebody, that actually
Mm.
puts your life in jeopardy.
Oh,
Because
totally,
if your
yeah.
only revenue is that, that paid gig, the risk of you sharing anything that would help, fulfill your passions and get you more work, the risk of, revealing it and getting a legal suit is so high
Yeah,
that most artists can't even afford like what it would take to battle that out, and
yeah.
so instead, it almost, in my mind, it kind of feels a little bit like a trap. Like I'm always trying to like encourage artists to work on their personal projects. And for the almost all the way up until this NFT stuff, I've always said you have to work on a company that you might not like, that might be soul draining, it might be work that's really stressful, but you need it to pay your bills to afford to do your art that you love, that aligns with your heart, that aligns with your mind. And I was always having to give them this like a very like double-edged sword. You do this client work to pay your bills, then you have time, hopefully, to do your passion. This space of crypto art is like the first time in tech space that I've heard that there's a chance that you could just do the passion stuff and make a living off of it. And I was just like, that would be freaking amazing if that, if it grows, we have to nurture it if that happens.
I think like, I mean, it's not, I mean, there's been models also for that, like the sort of the Patreon model, and we're seeing a lot of artists have been finding their way in Patreon, and even before that, like Kickstarter campaigns, and like Kickstarter became like the second biggest publisher of independent of any kind of published work.
Really, I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Yeah, like I kickstarted my Modern Phylaxis comic, for example.
Ooh.
And this is
Can you hold it
augmented
closer
reality
to the screen so that people could take a screenshot of it if they want it?
There you go.
Cool.
But yeah, this was an example of the first augmented reality comic book. So
what?
I put You
said the first?
Yeah, I did this in 2015. And it's like the first back-to-back augmented, like there was around the same time when augmented reality had its kind of first wave, and then
Pokemon Go wave.
Yeah, like at that time, there was sort of a lot of attempts at doing like attaching augmented reality to physical objects and stuff like that. But no one was really like, in my one, for example, you use the augmented reality to present another layer of narrative. So words get crossed out, you read a different story that's contrary to what you're seeing on the page. And then you've kind of got two stories, and then as the reader, you're negotiating in your head, like, what is really happening in this story? Which one do I believe? And it kind of gets all twisted as reality is kind of blurred. But it's presented as like the diary of a paranoid time traveler, and you kind of use your phone as a almost like a magnifying glass to inspect all the details on the page, and then through doing that, you discover details and stuff. So
that's so
because
cool.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing to be like holding your phone above a book, like we don't read books like this. So I wanted the action of holding a phone like this to make some sort of sense. So in the context of my book, it becomes more like a magnifying glass in a way, like because you're putting it closely to elements on the pages, and those elements are activating and stuff. So I think it's important for, as we start to innovate, we're always thinking of the broader context, like what we're trying to achieve. Let's not just do something for the gimmick of it. What can we do that has some sort of purpose?
I'm thinking of glasses, like, because you said it may not be the most comfortable interaction today to hold a phone in front of a book, but it's the baby step that will be needed to wear glasses that are then holding a physical book that can then create that dual story, a dual narrative. But like, in order for us to get to the glasses, it's not going to happen unless we use what we have today, like our phone, which is kind of like the smart camera. It has machine learning, it has tracking algorithms. So it's like the baby step. But can I just say, like, for those in the comments here, can we say how freaking awesome is it to see one of the first augmented reality comic books? Can everyone in the stream right now just acknowledge that this is groundbreaking, to say the least.
I noticed there was a lot of talk about sort of the NFT and crypto art scene. Someone was asking how they can get into it. I think it's good to look at some of the main platforms like Super Rare or Nifty Gateway. Read their about section. They kind of break it down pretty clearly, and that will sort of that will give you kind of like a good overview of what to expect from the scene. Just to answer that one question that popped up.
Yeah, let's build off of that question. So for those that are interested in getting into the NFT space, by the way, NFT stands for non-fungible token. You'll have to Google it, but we can kind of explain it. It's like, I think of it as like as a secret badge that you get that says, yo, I collected some artwork. And then you get this little badge that anybody can see in your wallet, and it's like, I own artwork, and this badge lives with you, and you can trade that badge with other people Do you have any kind of metaphors that you use for describing what a token is? Because I know that's been a hard part for me to explain to folks when I say, oh, we're going to tokenize. They're like, what are you
Well,
talking about?
I think the main point is that it just you are recognized as the authentic owner of a digital artwork. So like in the physical world, you know you own the artwork because you're holding it in your hands,
Yeah.
and you can put it on your wall or whatever.
This is mine.
And
I own this. It's physical.
Yes.
I painted this,
Yes.
right? How
So
is this
in
different
this,
than a digital asset?
yeah, and in this, you know, in this context of NFT, you have some certification being that it's linked to the blockchain. Sean, who's popped up, is saying it's like a software license. You just have evidence that you are the owner. I think that's the most important thing.
So
that's
like,
beautiful.
that's what oh, thanks. Sorry. I'm just trying to explain because this has been like the hardest question I've been trying to answer for people in the last month is they're like, how do I protect something that's digital? Because I can't hold it. I can't ship it. I'm trying to explain to them that crypto art with the blockchain technology is treating your digital painting. It's treating your digital artwork. It's treating your digital music. It's treating your digital gift. It's treating your video as a physical thing that there can only be one or a limited number of. And so like I try to show it like it's like holding your artwork in your hands, except the hands in this case are the blockchain. Wait, maybe I got thrown off in that last bit.
Yeah, but I suppose the point is, if you know, as a buyer, you've got evidence that you own it. But then if you go on and sell it again, to another person, that person buys it, they've got the ownership. But the record that record of who's owned it and who's traded it is all recorded. So it's interesting that you can keep that trail as well, keep the evidence of that trail. But yeah, there's a lot of comments popping up here in the
let's take some moments to answer some comments. So for those, you please leave a question and then I'll just pop them up on the feed, or we can go through some of these. We've got a big question from Sean O. Gardner. Says, it's the difference between owning the Mona Lisa or just seeing it in a museum or buying a replica. Thank you, Sean. Yes, thank you, Sean O. Gardner. That's a great example of explaining the difference between a physical piece of art versus a digital representation. Imagine if I took a crappy photo of the Mona Lisa and then texted it to you after you paid me how much. I said this is the Mona Lisa. and they're like, well, no, it's not. Like, yes, it is. Look, I have the digital asset. And you're like, well, that's not the original. How do you know? Well, because there's a provenance I can check at the museum that says that physical painting is the original. So that text message you just sent me, I'm not paying the cost of the Mona Lisa for your text. You know, it's not the original, and I can't even verify it. You're like, well, it is. You're like, cool, let me see the history. And they're like, I don't have it. You know, so that's a great question.
And shout out to Sean. He's actually from Emanate, so he helped organize the Deadmau5 partnership. Also, shout out to Johan, who I just saw.
Shout out to Sean and Johan. Thank you for helping, I guess, spearhead this industry, because it's going to take this collaborating together in all of these different art forms, merging technologies, and being a community. Oh, we got a question here from Coldy.art. That's Coldy.art says, once digital frames connect to digital wallet, we can easily look at our collections in a more physical way. Let me say that one more time because I think I didn't understand it. Once digital frames connect to our digital wallet, we can easily look at our collections in a more physical way. What is he? Can you explain that to me a little bit better?
Yeah, I can explain that. So basically, and for everyone that's tuning in, like Coldy and Yes Universe, all great people to follow in this space. Just keep an eye on them. Coldy's been awesome for me. Coldy's been awesome for me, and Phoenix from Yes Universe, and just learning about the space. But yeah, basically what he's saying is, at the moment, for us to view the artwork, for example, we've got to go onto the platform like Super Rare to see the artwork that we've purchased. Yes. And he's talking about the digital frame is when we can actually look at our artwork that we've purchased at any time. So it's this is where we need to see an evolution of the platform. I would for example, to be able to have a platform that's connected to augmented reality. Maybe if I buy a digital artwork, and then suddenly it's connected to an augmented reality platform, and I can go and put it up on my wall in my house when I'm looking through my house with my phone and my glasses. So I think like something like that would be an example. But it's like, you know, one of the reasons that we buy art in general is like so that we can show it.
Yeah, you have these two pieces back there.
Things.
They're beautiful.
Yeah.
And why did you get it? Why did you get the one on the right that looks it looks like a mosaic fractal? Why did you get it? You know?
Yeah,
or did you make
this one. No, this one's from Jess Johnson, and she's like a incredible artist. And also, interestingly enough, her artwork has recently been transformed into a virtual reality piece that was showing at the NGV, the big fancy gallery that I mentioned before.
The 5 meter tall, you know, artwork.
Cause out front. Yeah. So I think like, anyway, like I just like the artwork, but also I see value in owning her artwork because this artist is blowing up. There's, you know, artwork is also an investment, but that wasn't the reason we bought it. We just love it because it's beautiful.
Thank you for answering that, because I know that's a question I get from folks from the non-art space or getting interested. They're like, well, how do you know that one's valuable and that one's not? And then it sounds like it's subjective, right? From artist to person to individual. But in your case, it's a combination of you value the art, you like the artwork, you also value the artist. And that's why you have this piece in this case.
Yeah, totally. And, you know, for anyone that is interested in the art itself and wanting to support that artist, like obviously we purchase their art so they can continue making it. Like that's at the core, one of the reasons that we would support an artist.
Thank you so much. We got a really cool question from A Forest Society. The question is, how would this tokenization apply to experiences made in stuff like Unreal? I've been making immersive experiences and immersive experiences and would be interested in putting those for sale. You have any commentary on that? Yeah,
I think it's just a matter of time. So it's come up quite a lot.
Sorry, it's so exciting to hear that, but sorry. Keep going.
I think like, obviously it's a good time because like these platforms like Super Rare and Nifty Gateway are constantly evolving. We're seeing updates like Super Rare just updated their whole system to support auctioning and stuff like that. And just in the last week, like, you know, maybe one of the next, maybe a future update might be like some sort of WebGL kind of hosting so that you could have some interactive WebGL or maybe, and, you know, Unreal can output to those kind of platforms as well. So I think it will be a decision that those platforms need to make, and it will also probably be informed by the community that are going to create awesome artworks to fill up that space. So like I always look at artists like Zach Lieberman, for example, who's just like, you know, he's the open frameworks guru. Open frameworks is an incredible tool for creating like these interactive artworks, audio interactive artworks, or like, you know, motion capture interactive artworks that are reacting, like you can just set it off with your webcam or whatever.
So amazing.
And his work is also being recognized by the museums and stuff now. So I sort of see him as one of those artists. Like he's done some really big commission jobs for like New York Times and stuff like that as well. So I'm seeing like these people are carving out a space for themselves and being recognized for what they're contributing to this exciting new medium. And I think, you know, the platforms, I know like the guys at Super Rare are really responsive to all that's happening. And I know, like I've spoke to those guys and they were like big fans of processing, which is another one of those unique programming platforms that kind of came out of the artist / programmers yearning to program art and code art.
Like async a bit.
Yeah, also my business partner at iJack is like a big processing and open frameworks guru, and he's been using those platforms for doing data visualization and stuff like that.
So cool.
So, and that kind of brings us up the question of like the future of this space, you know, like what could make a digital art more unique or more interesting or more personal for the user. So I mentioned in another talk to the Cointelegraph, like, you know, we talk about NFTs and the authentication of the artwork to let you know that you are the authentic owner of it. But what about if we also like use machine learning to record a data set of your voice so that only your voice can activate that artwork, or that artwork only responds to your voice or something like that? Or in the context of like Deadmau5 or a future collaboration with Deadmau5 or any musician, you know, maybe the whole album is like the artwork only reacts to their music. You can put on other music in the room, but it will only react to their music. And creating these unique sort of pairing of the artwork to audio or artwork, or it could be to movement, like maybe the artwork reacts to your movement and things like this. So, and that's what I like about sort of participatory artwork, you know, like previously we've had to go into institutions and galleries and museums to, you know, participate in the artwork. Before that, it was like a really observer culture of artwork, but then we had like interactive artworks. Now we're seeing like Team Lab over in Tokyo, where you can walk into huge spaces and the visuals all react to your presence. And now obviously we've got like these like AR lenses and stuff that will recognize your face and activate artwork on your face. Exactly. Great timing. So I think, there's like potential there to really push this sort of threshold of what we can do and what makes some like an artwork an interesting sort of commentary on the times that's using the technology of the time as well. So I think, you know, it's going to be like a conversation with those platforms to sort of recognize where they need to invest in that infrastructure. Like investing in all that infrastructure isn't easy. It requires a lot of testing. It requires a lot of support. It's got to be linked to the blockchain, and it requires a community of artists to actually who are creating artwork in those mediums. And the mediums are changing, so you're going to kind of forecast a bit like what's going to actually stick around. You know, the person that brought up like Unreal as an engine before, like Unreal is like a really good investment in your time as an artist, because it's a juggernaut. It's like proved itself.
Huge.
Its big drop earlier this year and tackling resolution and all this kind of stuff. It's like we know that it's going to be around for a while, so I think like
invest now.
I think like invest in yourself by kind of learning tools like that. It's not going to be a waste of your time. But the beauty of it is that you know, Unreal has, because it is such a big beast, it has that support to port their experiences out to different platforms. You know, so like at the moment, I'm like at Wave, for example, I'm building a lot in Unity, and the concerts going out in Unity. And Unity is like the competitor to Unreal, obviously.
Yes.
And we also
1-to-1 fights.
Yeah, those are the two UFC champs in that space. And I think, and also for my company, iJack, we use Unity as the framework. I should have been more prepared. I should have been wearing my own filters right now. But yeah, like when you go to the export your project, you'll literally see like 10 different platforms there. And it's like, it's great that they're taking care of that and not us. You know, like I've been developing these tools and stuff for such a long time and trying to make it compatible with all the shit. And like the start of this conversation, we was talking about like an app on the App Store, and then the like Apple will change its whole fucking policy, and then all your shit doesn't work after a year or whatever. And it's just like you barely got the thing out there on the platform and they've just killed you and they don't care. Like, so it's at least like there are some companies out there that are making sure your projects are backward compatible. So you've got a shelf life that's longer than a year, you know, a shelf life that's like 5 years. And that's something that we all have to sort of consider. Like, are we creating something for the moment? Do we want to create something for the long term? What is the shelf life of it? And when we're weighing up our investment in these projects, like I always have to think about like the shelf life if I'm going to do a project that's like multiple series. Like I come from a storytelling background. So my Knowles comic, for example, was 24 episodes created over a couple of years that I was just like constantly hacking away at. But then I had to constantly consider when I started it, I did it at a very high resolution. Knowing that in a year from now, with the forecasting what the computer specs and like the exponential curve of how computers in the general public were going to improve, that it wouldn't be slow for a majority of computers in 1 year from that moment. So if I know that I'm going to if something's going to take me a year to develop, I can forecast like a little bit what's coming out and stuff. And the same, like I've got 2 projects coming up with Snap, and I was watching their big annual event where they unleash all of their new features and stuff. And so I was like immediately emailing them, when does that come out? Like, I want to use that shit for my project.
Now.
What's the sort of time frame? Can I just design all my shit assuming that I'll have access to that? Can you give me beta access to that feature now? So, because I want my piece to be the case study for that feature, so that you guys get behind it and, you know, put it in the spotlight.
Bam.
When your feature comes out, you're promoting my shit. Like, that would be the best circumstance for me.
Honestly, and that's so feasible too, you know? Like, that's the exciting part, is like, they are right now, a lot of those platforms are looking for innovators in their space to kind of help set the tone of this is the future. But like, it's hard for people to see the future if they don't think visionary. Like, if you're only working with the tools of today and doing the trendy stuff of now, you're already outdating yourself for next year. Or next
I feel
month.
like, yeah, and you know, and just for the, you know, the biggest joy that we have in like coming up with ideas is like looking at the kind of the future and how it could influence our work. Like previously, we talked about like the data that we can collect and bring that into triggering the visuals, like you know, a voice activated artwork or it's responding to music. But, you know, maybe there is a drone flying across the landscape of Mars and that data is being broadcast back to us, and we're taking that data and feeding it straight into an artwork, and that can be a revolutionary artwork for whatever reason. But, you know, we can take data from all these different places and we can feed it into our art models.
Beautiful. Sorry, it's just
but, yeah,
so beautiful,
it's like just,
that model. Yeah.
yeah, going down that sort of thought experiment, like, just is so much fun anyway, which is probably also why I love sci-fi.
Same. I mean, because you could easily take a LiDAR scanner to the bottom of a drone, fly it across Mars, and then map the height to the pitch and trough of a waveform on Earth. You know, so like we have an artwork that has some sound. Maybe it's just like 3 sine waves, one the highs, one the mids, one the lows. And as this thing orbits Mars and the LiDAR is picking up the different distances, it just fluctuates 3 different, you know, sine wave curves. And you're like, wow, this is like the art, this is the sound of the surface of Mars as represented here in this virtual asset. I'm going to spend X amount of dollars on it, you know, crypto on it, because I want to say I own this piece of reactive artwork from Mars, basically.
Yeah, and you know, when we talk about what that means in the context of the moment, it means that this was a moment where in real time data could be broadcasted back to Earth, and we use that data to create an artwork, and we encapsulated that historic moment in an art piece. And then that's what gives that art piece some value at that time or something. You know, that's an example. I was talking the other day about one of my favorite artists, who's an Australian futurist named Stellark. And he, last time I caught up with him, he did a physical performance piece where he had his arm was in an exoskeleton, and it was being controlled by people that were logging into a website, and they could put in commands and just basically move the keys around, and it would force his arm to move around. And in real time, and he sat and he was standing in the gallery for about 7 hours as people all around the world were logging in and controlling his arm. And it was this commentary just about what it means to be out of control of our selves, whether by a digital influence. So in his content, it was a physical, some invisible force was controlling him physically, but it's a big commentary on anything, like how we interact with all of these different systems, whether it's social media or whatever, and the impact that it can have on on the way that we live our lives. And not only was his arm like in this exoskeleton, he also had like virtual reality goggles on, and there was someone walking around in New York. So he was seeing what they were seeing in New York, and then he had headphones on, and he was hearing what someone else was hearing in the UK. So it was this complete barrage of the senses, but also being totally out of control of his own senses. And so I love how Don's got ready for every moment.
Wait, so what's wild about what you just said there? I mean, I just have like one logistical safety concern. Was there constraints on how much an arm could bend? Like it wouldn't bend to hurt the artist in this platform, I
Well,
hope.
I mean,
What is your
if you look
thoughts?
up this guy, he's famous for torturing himself, really, for putting his
Okay.
body on the line. And when he did this particular performance, he was 75. So just taking that into
Wow.
consideration is like a big part of his message that he's putting out is just also age and the barriers of age and the perspective of age as an artist, as an aging artist, and what we'll put our bodies through. So there was a lot to unpack there. So not only
Mm.
was he sort of making a commentary on the barrage of our senses, but also what it means for a performance artist at 75 to be taken control of and manipulated. I thought that that gave the whole experience a lot more weight.
Yes,
The
just hearing
incredible
that
thing
right now.
about
Yeah, I had
yeah, the
no
incredible
idea.
thing about that particular guy is like afterwards I was like, oh man, I feel like I shouldn't probably talk to you, but he's like, nah, fuck it. I've just been in there for fucking 7 hours. Let's go have a beer. And then he just like, we went to the pub and he just was yapping away for hours and hours.
Yay. Okay,
And I was
awesome.
just
Cool,
like,
cool. How is he
yeah, I was
feeling?
like
Or
so impressed.
how
Like,
was he feeling after that?
I think like, yeah, he was, I don't know. I think he's kind of famous for always being on a kind of an adrenaline kick anyway. But
Oh,
I
okay.
was like, just so impressed. Like he's got a lot to say. He's got an incredible amount of ideas, but I was just impressed that by the energy that he had after doing that kind of scale public performance. So I think like for me, I was like super
That's so cool.
inspired and I
Yeah,
was like,
me,
I want to
yeah,
be like this dude for sure at
same.
that age, you
Yeah,
know,
I would love to be in
but
like a robotic rig that I set up and, you know, let it be
yeah.
controlled from each planet. There's a drone on Mars controlling the position of my arm shoulder rotation. There's a, you know, taking the wave data from the Earth's, like, you know, routing that to the height of my shoes, and it's just like a platform. It would just look so silly, but very
I
informative.
like the idea to start thinking about like time dilation, like theory of
Ooh,
relativity. So have
okay,
some, you know, like some sort of work that's responding to like maybe a ship that's flying at, I don't know, like 10% of light speed away from Earth. And
okay,
as it etches further and further away, time is dilating. So
yeah,
it's still relative to, time is still relative to the ship at that moment. But as it's getting further away, the time on Earth is accelerating. So we'd have some sort of visual metric on Earth that's showing how time is passing in relation to that ship. It's like if someone flies away from Earth for a certain amount of time and then they
yeah,
come back, for them, time hasn't passed. But
right.
like they're flying at a tenth of light speed away from Earth for 3 years, but they come back and it's 20 years have passed on Earth. Like some sort
Oh
of
my
visual
goodness.
metric to represent that
You could do a
would be
time
so
lapse in
crazy.
Unreal Engine. So in Unreal Engine, you can do like night and day cycles, and then you could run a procedural generation of how the Earth's format or how Earth
Yeah.
vegetation, and basically, you know, have a VR gallery here on Earth that could be linked to like the speed of the time lapse is linked to the speed of that ship in that context, so that when they come back or
Yeah.
you get to see like this is what they're experiencing. Well, actually, since it's relative, they're not experiencing that time dilation. I guess we are in that context.
Uh, yeah, maybe they have to. Yeah, it's a kind of maybe they are watching. Maybe it's an artwork that's just for them, and they are watching Earth pass, which would probably be super depressing. But it would literally be like Time Machine, you know, like that Time Machine movie where the whole world kind of grows around the little bubble.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
but
How?
I love that. I love thinking about that shit. It's so wild. Uh,
Yes. You know, speaking of which, you know, kind of just, you know, just I just wanted to be conscious of your time. Do you still have time to continue to chat, or you know, what's it up?
yeah, let's wrap it up at 3:30.
Okay, perfect. So,
Cool.
you know, you, oh yeah. So I wanted to ask. This question keeps coming up, and I don't always have the best answer to it. So I would just love to add it, to ask it another XR artist to another XR artist. Um, what kind of metrics do you put in your head when you're comparing? Do I post this on super rare? Do I put this on known origin? Is this an async thing? Is this a nifty gateway kind of thing? Is that, I mean, is it just like, I don't know. I'm just curious to hear.
I mean, it's really not, I'm not there yet.
Okay.
This is my first one. And I really just trusted the guidance of my friends like Phoenix and Cody,
Same.
who've been working in this space a lot more and just new stuff. And also the guys at Emanate, like they'd been looking into it way more than me. And I was just focused on the creating the artwork for this piece.
Gotcha.
Um, but I think like it was you know, a wise choice for us to go with the Super Air at this time. And I don't know, like what will happen. I think like,
Yeah.
if like at the moment, I think it was brought up before, like the images are, you know, they're supporting like static images and MP4s, and and so, and we're talking about this kind of being an audio reactive piece, right?
Yes.
So like, yeah, you know, it's an MP4, so it's not like a real-time audio reactive piece. We have to bake the audio reactivity when we do the render. So it still represents as audio reactive piece, but like down the line, you know, I'd love to do a real-time audio reactive piece for sure.
Yeah.
And that's where we need to see that evolution of the platform. But also, you know, like what happens when we don't even support MP4 anymore? Like we need to make sure that these artworks are remembered and can be accessed some way or another.
Just to help some people in the comments, because the word baked, when you hear it in this context, means we're converting all of our data into single frames, and when the frames are played in succession, it looks like a video. So if you bake your audio reaction, all your music video contents, and your CG object, when you bake it, it turns that into frames. So it's like a bunch of images, and then the audio being baked into it is when you have an audio that syncs to an MP4 file, it's going to play it together. So that's what the word baked means. I know that there's usually some questions around that word. And another one was rendering. Can you define what rendering is? I know, I know, but other folks are like, what is rendering?
Yeah, I mean, like ultimately, when you create an animation on your software or whatever you do, you have to output it in a format that people can view it. So there could be like an MOV file or an MP4 or whatever. Usually, you know, those are your render settings, choosing those different settings. And usually those settings are determined by where you're going to publish that, that file. So like and usually like the platforms that you publish to, they will have the formats that they support. So like on Super Rare, for example, when you go into the back end, it says very clearly there, you know, we support MP4. Like I think there's like, what's that web video format that's pretty popular now?
WebGL, GLB.
Yeah, the WebGL.
GLTF.
No, that's like more for that's kind of like the FBX of the web. But but yeah, just for videos and stuff. Oh, WebM for videos. Like some platforms will support that, and that's got really good compression. So we're always trying to find like, obviously, what's going to make our work look as good as possible. And there's different kind of rendering settings that will retain the quality of your work, but keep the file size small. And if you're publishing to the net, that's always a consideration for a lot of the platforms. Like you can't be putting like a 1 gigabyte file up if you expect people to actually watch that video on your phone or whatever.
Yeah, you do like
that's kind of like
Apple ProRes, no compression, highest bit rate, and you send it and you're like, why is it not working on anyone's phone?
and soon, and hopefully soon enough, but that won't be such a problem. But also like what we're seeing with like Unreal and stuff is, you know, these video games where your poly count, like the amount of triangles that you have in your 3D models and shit like that, which is just absolute nightmare for us creators. Like we hate having to reduce the quality of our models and stuff. But now they're finding solutions that rather than seeing all of that triangular data, the inside the game, they're creating like a snapshot of it. And you're seeing only the snapshot rather than seeing like all the data itself. And so that allows us to just pump insane amounts of like infinite amount of polygons and stuff. And that was kind of what Unreal was talking about with their big drop earlier on in the year. And that's like a game changer. And that's like, if you look up like dreams for PSVR and stuff like that, you see these creators creating these. I think there was one, I can't think of the guy's name right now, but there was one VR artist who pretty much recreated like the dreams. Who recreated the Unreal demo in VR like 5 days after the Unreal demo came out. And it's like there's a scene where it's like walking through the cave and there's rocks coming down and dust going up. And it looked all in dreams. And it's like, and it looked insane to the point where the Unreal team starts retweeting his work. And they're just like, we just fucking spent months creating this thing, and this guy's gone and done it in a couple of days. And I was just like, this is kind of like a watershed moment for the realization of where we're headed with these tools. is like where a single artist can compete with an entire team with one of the most powerful pieces of software on the planet, sort of thing. So I was like, okay, this is good. But like, Dreams allows that because it's like a controlled ecosystem. So you can't export out of Dreams, which is the real
Oh, you
downfall for it at the
can't?
moment. You
Damn,
can
I
just
didn't know
export
that.
out a little video, but you can't get your
Okay,
models and stuff out of there.
not
So,
yet.
not yet, but yeah, there's been
Mhm.
funny hacks. I saw one of the funny hacks was people made a video where they flew a camera around taking a gazillion PNGs and then took all those photos and sent it into reality capture to turn that
Yeah,
into a 3D model,
and do a
which was
volume builder,
really hilarious.
a
Yeah,
volume
yeah,
builder
which was,
solver. Dude, that's genius. What a way. That's
yeah,
a time
that was,
consuming but a cool workaround.
yeah, yeah. I thought it was the most hilarious fuck around kind of workaround for that problem. But yeah, I mean, as soon as they open source that or just make it available on PC, it will be
Hmm.
a game changer
I was
for
gonna ask
sure.
you because I know we're about to wrap up in the last 5 minutes here, and I know there's some documentation about your process with Deadmau5 here. Do you have any like notes or comments about what that was like working on the visuals for this particular crypto art drop on Super Rare?
I think like, I mean, I didn't have a creative brief. It was pretty open. I got sent a couple of tunes early on and I got to decide which one I wanted to do.
Hmm.
We kind of chatted about it a bit because we knew that it's going to be like a short 30-second loop, that we
Yeah,
wanted to choose a part of the song that wasn't like too banging, like just try and
just
find
like
a nice kind of ambient part
yeah.
of the song that you could
Okay.
just loop and continue to watch over and over again kind of thing.
Hmm.
So, and then I wanted to make the animation so that it would just be a nice smooth loop that can just play infinitely as well, rather than
Yeah.
having like a clear start and end. So it's like a bit of a carousel kind of animation in that sense.
Are you excited for the drop?
I'm kind of, I don't know what's going to happen, but like I was blown away at the response on Twitter, especially like just all the conversation that's happening around it. I know like Deadmau5 has so much weight that he brings with like his like huge amount of fans and stuff, and also he's kind of notorious for being kind of in this cutting edge of like exploring where he can take his music visually in the different mediums,
Yeah.
and here's an example of another artist who's got like an Unreal concert coming out soon as well. So I think it's
Hmm.
just an interesting time for experimentation where we're starting to, as individuals, we're starting.
Oops, I think I lost your audio for that moment. I think I lost your.
Yeah,
Yeah, can you
yeah,
hear me
my
again?
battery was about to go, but
Oh,
yeah, it's
sorry.
just an interesting moment where um, as individuals, we can have access to these tools where we can kind of start to create these like pretty high quality production works that include all of those cool features that previously were restricted to like big studios and stuff. I think like one of the funny examples of that was like, that Princess Leia shot in Star Wars. And
Yes.
then like a few weeks later, they spent ages on it and they got a lot of criticism because it was kind of mediocre. And then like a few
Hmm.
weeks later, a single artist just did a deep fake with her
Yep.
face. And it was like kind of, incomparable. And
Yeah.
it was a kind of a big fuck you to the industry in a way because they were hyping it. Like it was a big moment to them, but then it was like 2 weeks later, just little guy in his apartment or whatever comes out with the deep fake that was competitive,
Yeah,
So I think,
competitive to like a whole studio that spent months building one moment and like hours and hours and many artists all for this shot in a feature film. And then you said how a week later or 2 weeks later?
it was just like a couple of weeks later. Like it didn't
One
feel like
artist.
very long.
Yeah,
Just using like, and that's just like, that's again like just an example of the exponential curve of technology. As soon
exactly.
as someone sort of breaks that moment, and then it's like, and then it just proliferates.
Hmm.
Yeah, we're going to see so much of that. Machine learning is going to just change the game like so much. Machine learning for all kinds of different scenarios that we can't even imagine right now.
Not even,
So
yeah. How should people reach you if they wanted to contact you, or where do you want to direct people's attention if they're new here to you?
I think just the Instagram is the good one.
Okay, can you
Yeah.
say your Instagram out loud? 'Cause I might turn this into an audio as well.
Yeah, it's sutu.eats.flies, which is
S
kind of a
U
weird mouthful. Yeah, I'll
S
just
U
type it
T
in here.
U Okay, cool.
If I can type.
Sutu dot, or is it underscore?
I
I guess you're
can't even
typing it down.
remember.
Sorry. Sutu, I think it was sutu.eats.flies.
Oh yeah, it comes up with my profile. Like, so
Oh,
anyway, you
perfect.
can see it there. It comes up in the comments, but also my website is that as well. I
Yep,
take
I just
myself
pinned
very
it.
serious, obviously.
Amazing. Do you have any final thoughts for this particular piece that you want to leave this audience with?
Um, I mean, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think like the piece is called In Titan's Light. It was made for the track called Saturn, which I interpreted as the planet Saturn, which is a big golden planet, and Titan is the moon that orbits Saturn. So if you Google Titan, you'll see it's also bathed in this golden light. So I kind of imagine the piece as being like a space station on the moon of Titan that's bathed in this beautiful golden light and looks kind of
Wow.
very new frontier, kind of new frontier. And I thought that was fitting because it was kind of a new frontier for me personally and for this whole sort of scene and culture of sort of crypto art. And we're just starting to be explorers in this space. So that was kind of my thought process for the artwork itself. So tune in and see it and let us know what you think.
Oh my goodness. Well, Sutu, it's been a pleasure. Am I pronouncing your name correctly, by the way? Because I'm going to keep saying
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's right, man.
Sutu.
Yeah.
Okay. It's been a pleasure to meet you virtually, during the middle of this pandemic to share some light on creativity and some positivity and collaboration. Um,
Mm.
and I think we'll probably be in touch because this space is just starting. It's just like it's a baby that's like just learning. It's just like learning how to walk on its own. And the baby's like getting up, and then stumbles back, and then but that baby's gonna grow up and it's gonna learn how to walk, and then it's gonna run, and then by that point you're like, wait, thought it was still just like a little thing. Nope, baby's an adult now. Okay, that's a weird metaphor to end on.
I think
Baby Yoda. There we go.
I
Thanks.
think Phoenix from Yes Universe made a good mention.
Oh,
The
all
drop
right.
is this Tuesday coming up at 2 p.m. on Super Rare. So that's the date and time to lock into your brain. Tuesday, December 15th at 2 p.m. Tune in for this auction and we'll see what happens, I guess.
Everyone remember superrare.co. That confused me because I kept typing in .com. It's not .com. It's superrare.co. That's the site that you're going to want to go to. And the drop will be on Tuesday, the 15th at what you said? You said 2 p.m.?
At 2 p.m., yeah, that's what we're aiming for, yeah.
I'm excited for you and Deadmau5, and thank you so much for taking time to jump on this live stream. And yeah, have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. All right, catch ya.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Wow, that was so cool. Like so many things there. So I love this future that we're accelerating into, and it's really nice to see that there's a lot of other XR creators that are getting into the space. So I'm thinking it's a safe spot. If you have questions about this, you can reach out to me, but also reach out. So the people in the comments here, we have coldy.art and we have yesuniverse.co. You should message them your questions, I think. If you're curious about this space and you're like, well, what do I do now? I would say maybe not email. I would say maybe tweet them, just tweet them because that's probably like the better communication network. It's public. People can kind of see some visibility on things. And yeah, this is gonna be exciting, man. I'm so excited for like all the XR technologies to like, be normal. Can you imagine if we had an asset like this that like I could like sell for like $1 and then somebody else owns it, then they sell it for $10 and then I make 10% of that. You know how much motivation I would have in the XR space if I could make a full-time living making artwork that I choose. I sculpted this thing in whatever tool, painted this thing, spent my life on it, but then this thing got used 4.5 million times here on Instagram during the week of October. So like, it would be really cool in a future where artists could put their work and effort into something like this and then make a living off of that. And I think that crypto art combined with augmented reality, combined with machine learning, combined with music, combined with all of these converging technologies is going to make this actually happen. So get stoked, get ready, stay tuned. And yeah, I'll do my best to save this stream. And oh, here's the last thing. Throughout this piece, we had lots of really amazing nuggets of information from Sutu. So what would be really cool is if you recorded those moments from this Instagram. So I'm going to save this on Instagram TV. That's IGTV. You can actually view IGTV videos now on your desktop, like literally in a browser. So if you're on a laptop or a desktop, you can go to my Instagram and be instagram.com/Don Allen III. That's DonAllenIII. And then go to the IGTV section, and then you can basically record little segments that you think were useful. And if you retweet them, it will help make this XR future happen a little bit faster. So I'll see you there. Thank you so much for your time. For real, this has been awesome. And it's just the beginning. All right. Bye-bye, everybody. Oh, we got some questions, Don. I'm sharing with you all the information. Oh, boy, I'm going to get a bunch of messages. I'm really terrible with messages, so I will take a long time to respond after this one. There's some major traffic coming in on the back end here. So I'll try my best, but I'm going to need help from Yes Universe and Goldie to manage the influx of questions that are going to come in. Okay, goodbye.